Welcome into the Gridiron Grind College Football Podcast, 3 Jimmy G. It's been a couple weeks since we last talked college. I think it was right before the playoffs. Life and work has kind of got in the way of our recording schedule,
Dude,
but
and what a couple weeks it's been.
yeah, I mean, a lot to talk about. First, I guess we'll talk playoffs. Rose Bowl, Michigan beats Alabama overtime. What a heck of a game.
Yeah.
Michigan wins in overtime. I kind of thought Alabama was going to win, but, Michigan proved they were the better team. Nightcap, Sugar Bowl. Washington beats Texas. What was it, 37-31. Texas had a chance late.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, terrible rule. So if you don't remember, I know it's been a little bit. Washington has the ball. They're up 6. They're trying to run the clock out. Texas out of timeouts. And the running back for Washington gets hurt. But what happened was it stopped the clock. If the guy wouldn't have got hurt, if he was able to get up and run to the sideline, I think it would have ran down to like 20 seconds or something to that effect. But since he got hurt, the clock stops at like 56 seconds. So Washington has to punt and the clock stops. Texas gets the ball and is able to drive down in the red zone in those 56 seconds. Terrible rule in college football that I think needs to be changed because Texas got a gift there because a Washington player got hurt. If a Texas player would have got hurt, I get it. You can't, the defense can't act like getting hurt and then get an advantage. But the Washington player got hurt. You can't give Texas an advantage because they're the team losing. Terrible rule. I think it needs to be changed. Texas had a chance. I thought Quinn Ewers, that last play, threw the ball up and he could have put it on him. If he puts it on him, I mean, I'm screaming, just put it on him, and I think it's a touchdown.
Yeah, and people, I think if that wasn't the last play of the game, there's probably a good case for pass interference. But then, people also go, hey, if it's a penalty, call it. And, so it just depends on what side of the fence you are. I'm going, it was kind of bang, bang, but then you slow it down and you're like, he's kind of up on A.D. Mitchell and sliding it away. But yeah,
I'm fine with no call there.
Yeah, I am too. I'm like, what a game though. What a position, because it looked like Washington might run away with it there.
Yes.
Texas fights back and really makes it a game. Like you said, it was that was it. Kind of an at the buzzer, throw it to the end zone, see what happens kind of play. And so
here's my complaint. Michael Penix, and I rewatched the game last weekend. Michael Penix was on fire against Texas. He looked like the best player in college football. He couldn't miss. Texas secondary had some really good coverage. Michael Penix was making some just Pro Bowl NFL throws to NFL receivers. I mean, he was on fire, could not miss. I thought Washington deserved to win. I thought they were the better coach team. They played better than Texas. They were better prepared. Washington deserved to win that game. They were the better team. But then you go to the national championship, Michigan, Washington, and Michigan ends up running away with it. Michael Penix that sometimes couldn't hit water if he fell off a boat, was missing wide open guys, had some drops. As a Texas fan, I just like, of course he's doing this. I don't think what makes me feel good though as a Texas fan after watching Michigan, Texas does not beat Michigan. Michigan would have beat Texas. So it makes me feel better as a Texan. Like, we could have beat Washington, but we weren't beating Michigan. Michigan was definitely, of the 4 teams, Michigan was the best.
Yeah.
My complaint is I think Georgia might be, I would have loved to have seen now, looking back, a Michigan-Georgia.
I would have loved, me too, man. That's what I think would have been the 2 best teams in college football. We were on Michigan all year, and then right there towards the end, we're just like, God, Saban, But yeah, Michigan, man. And the biggest difference I saw between the 2 games was Michigan was in Michael Penix. They were in his face. He was not comfortable. They were hitting him. And I'm sitting here going, Michigan did a good job of getting him out of the rhythm. That was one thing I thought Texas, if they could get into him, I said that's going to be that, because Texas's secondary was good enough that I thought if Texas could get to Michael Penix, and maybe not even sack him, but just bother him. I thought Texas was going to win that game. And that to me was the biggest difference. Was there was a lot of times Michael Penix was throwing, kind of getting rid of it for his life. And, like you said, he had several wide open guys, and he would throw it. He'd either one, he wouldn't see him because he's having to get it out so quick, or two, like the one where the guy on fourth down, and he was wide open.
Wide open.
Penix throws it and just too much on it. And I'm going, he did not look like himself. But yeah, that to me was the biggest difference in the game, was Michigan's ability to really get pressure on Michael.
They did get a lot of pressure on him.
And now their head coach is gone. Washington's head coach is gone. He's moving down south, buddy.
That's what I was saying. So it's an end of an era in so many ways. Great transition. End of an era. Call it the 14 playoff is over. Michigan's the final champ. Congrats to Michigan. If you go back and listen to our first show, we did have preseason winning the national championship. We did have Michigan. So we did predict Michigan. I felt like Michigan, this was the year of Michigan, and they showed it. Overcame a lot. Heck, Jim Harbaugh missed 6 games being suspended, and this team still went undefeated.
Yeah.
End of an era.
One of them was Ohio State, too.
Yeah, exactly. End of an era of the 14 playoff. We go to 12 teams next year, which I'm excited about. But it's also end of an era. Nick Saban has retired. First question, greatest college coach of all time, Jimmy?
I think so.
Yeah, I do. I do too.
I think so. I think he passed Bear Bryant.
I do too.
It just goes back to Army and Notre Dame. Back in the day, it was just kind of them.
Yeah.
And that was it. And they're so dominant. And, Bear had more competition, but there was just nobody like him. And now it's Saban. The stuff, of course, nobody, and I'm sure years from now, they'll be dealing with stuff we didn't even think about.
Yeah.
Nobody had to do it in this age of recruiting that Saban had to go to and do it. To me, he is the best college coach of all time. His ability to develop players, if there was any talent untapped in a player, and that player was willing to trust the process and go through it, Nick Saban was going to squeeze every bit of talent he could out of a player. And that, to me, I'm just like, that makes him the all-time great. He's had great players, but also he's had guys that just seemingly came out. I mean, it's Alabama, right? Oh, all these guys are 4 and 5 stars. Well, how many other teams get 4 or 5 star guys and, they ain't worth nothing? Like, you're kind of going, I don't even know how they got over 3 stars, much less 5 of them. And he rarely missed. And that to me was a sign of him, his analyzing of the talent and him being able to go, okay, these are 2 5 stars, but this is the guy with the tools. This guy's special. I want this guy over this other guy. That to me makes him the greatest coach of all time.
And also
the entire body of work.
Everything he had. I mean, my favorite thing about Nick Saban is his ability to adapt. At first, he was all defense. He was going to win on defense. I mean, you look at the 2009 national championship against Texas, and he did it with defense. Greg McElroy was his quarterback. Yep. I mean, he ran the ball. He was and played just spectacular defense. But then offense, really in the early 20 teens, offense just went to a new level. And he figured out, I can't win the same way anymore. And you look at him, he had a couple years where his teams were behind some of the great offensive teams, and he adapted. He said, it's an offensive game. Started looking at the quarterbacks and receivers that they started producing. They were always really good on defense, but he transitioned to more of an offense. He also did it in an era where, the transfer portal, the NIL, recruiting. I mean, he handled it all. He was able to adapt. He never had a bad season outside of his very first season, where I think he was 7-6. Outside of that, Jimmy, this year was the first year since he's been a head coach in college or at Alabama that he went 3 years in a row. So first time that he went 3 years without a national championship. That is unreal.
And that first season they were on probation because Mike Shula.
Yep.
And so he goes 7-6, but they had to forfeit like 5 games.
Yeah.
So if you look, technically he was 2-6, but I mean, it's just like I'm like, yeah, they can say all they want. They won 7 games. Like
Right.
they may have to
Yeah.
forfeit them,
The
but
vacating the
they
wins
had
thing,
to.
I totally
Yeah,
against.
I don't get that either. But yeah, I mean, the guy hit the ground running, and in 2 years had Alabama in the national championship game and won. I'm
Yeah.
going, that's
Yeah.
that's
His second
unreal.
year. No,
Yeah.
third year. Third year. His second year, 08, they only lost one game. I think it was the SEC championship against Florida.
Hmm.
Tim Tebow, Florida.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because we beat them. We have never Arkansas. We never beat him at Alabama. We beat him twice at LSU,
yep.
but we never beat him at Alabama. When he got to Alabama in 07, that he beat us.
Did you see the
Oh, hey,
list of teams?
dude.
Like, there was a list of teams. Arkansas was number one on the list.
Mhm.
He beat Arkansas all 17 years he was at Alabama.
Yeah,
But there was a
I mean,
list of teams that he played like more than 5 times that never beat him. And it was just, it's an unreal stat.
yeah,
Think about
it's
all those
hard. I mean,
SEC teams that never beat
yeah,
him.
and you know, and it was one of those. Talking to talking to other fans of other schools, and they would ask. I've been asked multiple times, what is, especially that terrible run we had with A&M after they joined the SEC. It was 10 years before we beat them too. And we were donkey stomping them when they were in the Big 12 those 2 years. Then they get there. Of course, they had Manziel the first year. But I've been asked, what's more frustrating to you, beating Alabama or excuse me, losing to Alabama or losing to A&M? And I go, losing to A&M. And they're like, really? Like losing to Nick Saban? I go, no, no, everybody loses to Nick Saban. I'm like,
Yeah.
it'd be different, but I'm like, we can beat A&M, and we've been the better team some years. We just it just crazy stupid stuff had happened, but that's another thing. I'm just like, you just kind of got used to it, right? It's like when he beats you, you're like, yeah, well, okay. It's not what I thought would happen. Even when we were really good, there was a couple of those years we led them at halftime, and it was
Well,
like,
yeah, the
oh,
McFadden years, those, I mean,
yeah, I'm like, we beat Alabama one time with McFadden. And I'm sitting here, it just, no, it just, even when we would lead, there's twice, I think we led Saban at halftime. And I'm going, yeah, but, it's Nick Saban. Like, we'll see. We'll see when the buzzer clock runs out in the fourth quarter, we'll see. But it's Nick Saban, right? He beat you. Oh, man, that was close. Yeah, but that's what I thought was going to happen. So, I mean, the guy just, the guy's unreal, and now he's
legend.
he's gone. Yeah.
I honestly, there was that stat when he first announced, like, a couple guys are going to want to go. I had a good feeling Sark wasn't going to go because,
Oh
and
no.
I thought they were going to have a hard time because who wants to follow Nick Saban?
Yeah, there was a gap between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban.
You go
You're going to
nine and
follow right
three.
after him.
You go 9-3 at Alabama. That's like not making a bowl game at a lot of big places.
Yeah,
I mean, 9-3, heck, 10-2 is not a good year at Alabama.
yeah,
And I'm like, who the heck wants to follow that? Especially guys that are making good money at other big time programs that have the ability to compete and win. You go to Alabama, I mean, there's just so much pressure. And I got to be honest, the hire, I think it's a phenomenal hire because he doesn't have a huge personality in Kellen DeBoer. He's not just some media darling. He's been up in Washington. He was it a NAIA or Division two? I don't know, but the guy, have you seen his like record as a head coach? Now a lot of it
I
was at lower levels. Jimmy,
mhm.
Kalen DeBoer's record as a head coach is 112-11. He's
Yeah,
lost 11 games as a head coach. He's been at Washington 2 years in a row, and he's only lost like 2 games last year. He lost
yeah,
one this year. He's lost three
mhm.
games in 2 years at Washington. Then when he was at, I can't remember if it was Division two or NAIA, he lost 9 games as a head coach. He was the offensive coordinator at some places. I think it's a phenomenal hire. I think the dude is great. He's under the radar, great. I think they made a phenomenal hire. I really do.
I think so too, man. I think it's one of those. It's the right hire, like you said. Like there was all these names linked to it, and one, I never thought Sark would go because I'm sitting here going, if I'm Sarkisian, I'm going, no, I don't think so, man. Like, I've got a really good thing going here at Texas now.
Yeah.
Like, we're on the cusp. Like, my team is pretty well intact. I like what I've got behind my starters. Dion, I'm sitting there going, they don't want Dion. If I'm
No.
Dion, if I was Sark, Dion, Kirby Smart, if I'm all those guys, I'm using this to make more money. And
Yeah.
I was reading there's one agent that
Jimmy
represents like
Sexton.
almost
Jimmy
all of those
Sexton.
guys. Good for that guy because that guy's about to get paid because
He's the Scott Boras of college
oh,
football coaching agents.
phenomenal. That guy is about to get paid because if I'm all those guys, I would have used that interest to get a new contract
Yeah, and Sark got a
because
new contract. He was getting one
see,
regardless, but then the
there you go.
timing of the Alabama deal that made
Uh-huh.
Texas get that deal done.
Yeah, you speed it up a little bit
Yeah,
because even though you're kind of going, yeah, Sark ain't leaving. At the end of the day, money talks. So
right.
I like the hire. I think he's a good coach.
But also,
It'll be interesting to see, man.
you take like Sark. If Sark goes 9-3 the next 2-3 years at Texas, I mean Texas, it won't be what Texas wants, but he's not going to be on the hot seat for going 9-3. If he goes 9-3, 2-3 years in a row at Alabama, you're on the hot seat.
Yeah.
I mean,
He's underachieved and
yeah,
and that's again, it goes back to our first question. That's a testament to what Nick Saban has done at Alabama. Nick Saban has made 9-3, and in some cases 10-2 unacceptable. I mean,
yep.
that guy it's just another reason why that guy's the GOAT. That
I
guy
mean,
is unreal.
he is. The only question mark I'd have if Kellen DeBoer at Alabama is his ability to recruit. He's never been
Mhm.
somewhere where he's got to recruit at an elite level. I don't know what type of recruiter he is. I know at Washington they get a handful of 4 stars, but they're not getting 5 stars. And when you're at Alabama, you've got to compete with all the top guys. And Nick Saban could cherry pick. I mean, there was 15 4 or 5 star guys that Nick Saban was going to
Mhm.
get every year because he was Nick Saban in Alabama and the
Yep.
success. So if you're taking 20, 25 guys every year, 15 of those 25, he didn't have to compete with anybody because those guys wanted to play at Nick Saban and Alabama for Nick Saban.
Mhm.
And he only had like 10 guys he'd have to compete with Georgia, Texas, Ohio State,
Mhm.
Oklahoma, those schools. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. Kellen DeBoer is going to have to step up his recruiting game. He'll have all the resources and everything he'll need.
Mhm.
It'll just be interesting because he's going to have to. The Sharks are swimming. Kirby Smart at
Oh,
Georgia, Ohio State, Sark at Texas, all of
yeah.
them. They are
Every
trying to get
college
in.
coach,
And like
yeah.
Saban's gone now. Who's going to be the next? I think Georgia
Mhm.
obviously has been right there. So they're going to have the inside track to be the next dominating dynasty in the SEC. But I mean, those guys are going in and they're trying to get some dudes on the bandwagon before
Oh, and it
Alabama
wouldn't
can get
surprise
to them.
me if some kind of mass email or text went out, just something, Olympus has fallen type deal. And because, yeah, and I personally believe may never find out, or, then again, Saban might just come out and tell you. I think a huge part, I think it played, you look at college basketball, I think it played a lot in Coach K and Roy Williams retiring. And I think
Yep.
this transfer portal and NIL had a lot to do with Nick Saban retiring because not only do you have to recruit high school kids, now you've got to recruit high school kids, players that have signed a letter of intent on your team on scholarship. You've got to recruit them. So you have to recruit
Yep.
high school kids and your current
Yep.
team to keep
Yeah, that's
them from
tough.
leaving. And there's no control over the tampering. Everybody, it's happening. It's as long as there's something to be gained, we as humans will figure out a way to try and cheat and get an advantage. It just
Yes.
is what it is. You can't stop the tampering. You've got kids looking at him going, yeah, coach, I mean, I'd love to come play for you, but how much money am I going to make? He's going, I don't know. Do you want to win a national championship? I don't know. I'd kind of rather get paid a couple $1 million. And he's going, I'm out of here.
Yep.
And like we've talked on the show before, I go, it's crazy to think that we're in a world where Nick Saban in your living room doesn't mean as much to some kids
Yeah.
as it used to. And it really doesn't. Like I said, it's like, hey, that's great, coach, but I can go here and not have to sit 2 years behind a guy, and I can get paid several $100,000 or $1 million, and I'm just going to do that.
Yep.
So I believe all that had something to do. I think he's just like, man, I'm done. Like
Yep.
I'm having to
Couple
recruit my
things.
own team. I'm out.
Yeah, all of that probably had a lot to do with it. He had an interview with Reese Davis. It's on ESPN. I watched it on YouTube, but Reese Davis at ESPN did the interview. It's like a 25-minute interview, basically asking him why he retired. And that had stuff to do with it. He said his age, just the ability, the amount of time and effort you got to put into
Mhm.
this job to do it at the level he wants to do it at. He said it was tough this year because he felt like his age and it's hard for him to put in those amount of hours. 365. I mean, it's a year-round job, everything you got to
Oh,
do.
golly, especially now it's 24/7. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, he
you
just
know,
so that was a lot of it. He said his age, but who do you think are we set up if Alabama's not gonna be the premium dynasty, who do you think set up to take that place? Is it Georgia?
I think
I mean, Georgia was kind of already about starting to do it anyway.
yeah, you saw Kirby Smart become the most successful kind of Sabanite.
Yeah,
Everybody's tried to hire him up. They try to snatch him up, and it never works. And Kirby Smart it worked with him. I think Georgia. I think Michigan if Harbaugh
well,
stays.
do you think Harbaugh stays? I think he goes to the
I don't
NFL.
know. I think so
I
too. I
think
think
he's
he's
tired of the
gone.
NCAA. He won a national championship. I think he goes to the NFL. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear something in a week or two. Um, I think
I
he
think
goes
it's
to the
going to be
NFL.
somebody in the South, somebody in good weather, right? Like because you're going to have to recruit the South. And Michigan, every now and then we get those teams, Michigan, Ohio State. They're always going to be a powerhouse and be in contention. But how long has it been since they got over the hump? You know what I mean? Michigan got over the hump, what, 97? Okay.
97, and that wasn't even an outright national championship because that was for
Right.
the
They split
BCS.
it,
They split it with was it Nebraska?
Nebraska. And
So
so,
it was like since 40 something since their last outright national championship, I think.
yeah, I'm just sitting here going, you look at uh, answer quick Georgia, Texas. I could see Michigan if Harbaugh stays, but I don't think he stays. Um, I think the jury's still out on Brian Kelly at LSU. Of course, with Saban gone, that's going to have a lot of these recruits are going to spread out and
I
go
think it's gonna
elsewhere.
spread out.
So
Yep.
we may not see another dominant run like Nick Saban. What we may get back to is, 5, 6 teams every year that could win the
It's true.
national
And with the
championship.
12-team playoff coming into
Hmm.
effect, you're gonna have a lot more teams making the playoff every year.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see,
And
but Nick Saban's a go. We have one last question on the season this year. Question of the week. Email to us, gridirongrindsports@gmail.com from Mary Ann from Melissa, Texas. And Jimmy, her question was, hey guys, love the show. Listen every week. What was y'all's favorite part of the college football season this year? This is a good question. It's kind of tough. For me as a Longhorn fan, it was Texas. It was between beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa and winning the Big 12. For me, that was huge. Um, that's probably what I'd go with for myself, even though that's kind of personal because I'm a Longhorn fan. But so I'd probably say
hmm,
Texas winning the Big 12.
my favorite part.
It's also hard to beat opening weekend. I know it was so long
Yeah.
ago, but that's not my favorite time. When college football's back. That was a great
My
time.
man, my favorite part is I don't have a singular favorite part. I kind of like you just said. Mine is the every Saturday,
That's a
almost every
perfect
Saturday
fan answer.
knowing that something is going to happen.
Yes.
Something wild somewhere is going to happen. You know, somebody's going to get upset. Somebody, and just what's my team going to do? What's, you know, recruiting, just it as a whole. I don't
Yeah.
have a favorite part, and like you said, it's not like Arkansas did anything crazy this year. We didn't, beat Alabama like the Longhorns did. And I was gonna say, for me as a fan, seeing the shakeup of like Texas beating Alabama, and then, oh, are they in the driver's seat? Okay, well then beats Texas. Oh well, crap. Okay, but then OU goes out and loses, and it's just kind of the back and forth and the playoffs. If you want to pin me down on one thing, I guess it was the playoff selection, just the nervous
Yeah. That was
energy
pretty
of going,
intense.
okay, well, Michigan's in.
Yep.
Okay, well, Washington's in. So who's 3 and 4?
Yep. That's a good
And
answer.
that would be if I had to pinpoint, but
Yeah.
just as a whole, I just love football is my favorite time of year.
Oh, I know it. And the true fan answer, what's so special about college football is every Saturday, just the
Mhm.
atmosphere, especially if you don't have much going on and you just get to sit there and watch football
Oh
on a
man.
Saturday, hang out with your boys, hang out with family, have a few drinks, grill some good food. Just nothing like or going to a
Yeah.
game. If you get to go to a game, just those game days, tailgating, hanging out
Mhm.
every Saturday. I mean, that's what's special about college football. You don't have it's the peak of the weekend. You don't have to work on
Mhm.
Sundays. Just every Saturday is why I'm a fan of college football. And as long as college football to me, I know people say about NIL, transfer portal, and it's turning more into the NFL, turning more into a business for players. And I get that. But for me, as long as every Saturday is still special, I'll always be a fan.
Yeah.
No matter what. I can adapt to NIL, transfer portal, players making money
Mhm.
and as long as every Saturday means something, because that's the deal right now. Every Saturday, like Texas losing to Oklahoma, that hurt. Like that was
Mhm.
painful.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be like, well, we lost to Oklahoma, but who really cares? Because you can lose a couple games, make the playoff. I don't ever want
Mhm.
that to happen.
Right.
Because I want those kind of games. They have to matter. And I think they always will.
Mhm.
Even because Texas still had a chance to make the playoff, they lost that game. They did, but the deal was they couldn't lose another one.
Right.
So it still had its importance. Like because you beat Alabama and then you lost Oklahoma, you still have a chance. But if you'd have lost Alabama, you could not have lost that Oklahoma game.
Right.
And I think that's what it's every Saturday has to matter. And I think that's what college football is what it is right now. Every game matters, every Saturday matters. And you tune in. Like the Cowboys, they're 12-5 and they had tied for the best record in the NFC. Well, they lost 5 games, but I mean every Sunday matters, but not to the extent in college football. College football, you
Yeah.
can't be
Think about
losing.
how bummed were we after that Cardinals loss?
Yeah.
And then it's looking like that's going to hurt us. And then the season plays out, and you're like, yeah, we won the division. We, like you said, tied for the best record, and the number 2 overall seed, and da da da. But in college, yeah, and I agree, every game matters. That's what's awesome, and I love it when like you catch the great white buffalo, the great white whale, where you don't have anything going on, but like you've planned it to where, hey, y'all let's come over, let's meet
Yeah.
somewhere, let's do something, and everything aligns up, and then it ends up being a great day of games. Your team wins, upset over here again, like just can't be beat.
Can't be beat.
Can't be beat.
Thanks for the question, Marianne from Melissa. Final question on our college podcast. It's the last episode of the season, but we'll be back next year. Next year, we got a big year. It'll be the Gridiron Grind
Mhm.
Bowl. Texas goes to Arkansas November 16th.
That's right.
So we'll build up all season for that. We'll be back next year. Thanks for joining us every episode this year. What a great season of college football. Enjoyed the heck out of it. Can't wait till next year. Hello, darkness, my old friend. The offseason is here, but
Mhm.
the Gridiron Grind will be back next season. Thanks for joining us. Till next year. See you guys. Check out our NFL podcast. Cowboys playoffs. We got big episodes coming up. See you guys.
Yeah.